Truth or Consequences, also known locally as T or C, understandably carries a lot of mystery and wonder over how it got its name. It's a name that inevitably evokes a kind of Wild West, frontier justice type of history, and the town's location in southwest New Mexico certainly seems to support that idea. But the real history behind the name is unfortunately much less exciting. So back in the 1940s and 50s, there was a radio game show called Truth or Consequences. The contestants were asked a question, and if they didn't get the right answer, they would have to perform some kind of stunt or consequence. In 1950, the host of the game show offered to broadcast the 10th anniversary episode from the first town that would change its name to Truth or Consequences. What used to be Hot Springs, New Mexico, held a vote. The vote passed, they changed the name to Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, and the host, Ralph Edwards, came into town and broadcast the 10th anniversary episode from Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. At first, the town only intended to change its name temporarily, but after Ralph Edwards, the host, came and visited and broadcast that anniversary episode, the town developed such an affinity for him that they held another vote and decided to change it permanently. Now, this affinity was not just one-sided. Ralph Edwards had such a great time when he visited TRC that he kept coming back every year thereafter, and it sparked off what they call the Truth or Consequences Fiesta, which they have had every year since, and they still have today every May. I spent a week in the Truth or Consequences area not long ago, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to try some new film stock in my Yashica FX-1. Now, the only lens I have for this camera right now is a really fast 55mm f1.2, so I thought I would run a roll of Cinestill 50D through it and see how that performed. I've never used any of the Cinestill films before, although I've seen plenty of night shots done at gas stations with the 800T variety, but I like slower speed films, and I don't really shoot a lot of film that's over 400 ASA. And with color negative films becoming more and more limited every day, I thought this is a good opportunity to try some color negative stock that I've never shot before. So I loaded a roll of Cinestill 50D in my Yashica FX-1 and headed downtown to see how this lens and film combo could perform. All right, so we're just now coming into the main historic district of Truth or Consequences. It's basically two main streets. One goes east, one goes west. This is where all the galleries and shops, cool vintage motels and hot springs and mural art is, and hopefully all the best stuff to photograph. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna park on one of these streets and get out and walk around and see what we see. All right, here's a spot right here. Just go over. All right. What I need, and here we go. Like I talked about in my video from the Nambe Badlands, my first shot I look to fire off as quickly as possible, just to get started and to get a sense of how the film, lens, and light are all working together. My first shot of a roll is almost never my best, but I always learn from it. It's really super bright outside. Even at ISO 50, I'm not going to be able to shoot wide open. Like most small New Mexico towns, one thing that there's no shortage of in Truth or Consequences is interesting old motels and, of course, vintage cars. great car. But maybe not as great as this one. This vintage Studebaker was a great find, and I really liked that super subtle shade of pink it was painted. The 50D handled it really well, and I actually enjoy the way the halation plays into the soft pink color of the car. I gotta get a wider shot of it, it looks too great. Photo walks in a small town can feel like a scavenger hunt sometimes, but there's almost always something interesting to photograph. Every place has its own personality and eccentricities if you look around for it. You just have to be a little bit open. While the light is almost blindingly bright, I'm pleased with how the latitude and color rendition of 50D really makes the best of it. Okay, so I've shot about half the roll now, and I'm pretty super happy with what I've got. However, I haven't been able to shoot this thing at 1.2, which is really what it's meant to be shot at. Let's face it, if you have a lens that's got an aperture of f1.2, you want to shoot it at f1.2. But this desert sun is just way too high, and it's way too bright to allow me to get to that aperture, even at 50 ASA. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a place to chill out for a little bit, wait a few hours, let the sun go down, and then hopefully it's going to get dark enough and dim enough that I can start shooting this lens at its wide open aperture, and we'll see what we get. All right, let's find a place. There wasn't really much in the way of local restaurants open on the day I was shooting, but Passion Pie Cafe came through for me. Can I get blueberry goat cheese pie, one bread pudding, and one raspberry peach pie? And then I'll take 4 chocolate chip cookies if I could get them. Maybe a coffee, like an Americano? I think that's going to be quite enough for me. Okay, that is a lot of food. Let's see what I got here. Alright, chocolate chip cookies. Save that for a minute. And here we go with some of the pies. Look at that, that's a bread pudding. Blueberry goat pie, raspberry peach pie. Maybe I'll save the chocolate chip cookies for later. And I'll have these now. Perfect. I should get a shot of these. Let's cut this one over here. Food photography, not necessarily in my wheelhouse. Right, where to begin? Right in the middle. Wow. That is good pie. Oh, bread pudding is really good. Okay, they're all great, but this is my favorite. Blueberry goat cheese pie. Unbelievable. Whew. All right. Not hungry anymore. But might need a nap. So I'm gonna go take a nap. Save those chocolate chip cookies for later. This joke is brought to you by my 9 and 12-year-old kids who thought it was really very funny. Also, I gotta give a big thanks to them for helping me film this video so I didn't have to self-shoot the whole thing myself. Finally, since the sun started getting low, it was time to head out again and finish my roll wide open at f1.2. So we're down by the Rio Grande River here, about a block from the main drag of Tier C. If you look carefully, you can see the moon coming up just over the hills there really fast. It's a beautiful full moon tonight. As a matter of fact, I should try to get a shot of that. There's a beautiful crane over here. Let me get a shot of. Not quite long enough lens for that, but I think the framing's pretty good. I love the way these cattails look. Look at this, another beautiful shot of the moon. I might just use the rest of my film on the moon. It's certainly no moonrise over Herndon, but I was really pleased with this shot. Gorgeous. I like the way the mountain is behind these cattails here. Let's back up and get a shot. I really wanted to include these birds fluttering around the cattails, but my shutter finger just wasn't fast enough. Even still, this is one of my favorite images because it evokes the Rio Grande River and the classic Truth or Consequences landscape silhouette of Turtleback Mountain. All right, everything I've shot so far has been at f1.2, so I'm definitely going to get a sense of how this lens reacts wide open. I love the way these birds look that are sitting atop this telephone pole. Electricity pole, I guess? I don't know. I don't know if things are really telephone poles anymore. Boy, I'm really showing my age with that one. Might have to get in the middle of the road for this shot. I like this composition, but I don't know what happened to create that dark line. I didn't have the same artifact in any of my other photographs. I finally got those birds in a shot, though. Well, I got some of them just before they flew away. Some, I think, in mid-flight. Let's keep looking around. All right, so I got some great shots down by the river. I've only got a few shots left on this roll, so what I want to do is get back to the main drag just to see if anything is lit up or looks interesting at night. Not really sure what it's going to look like after sunset, but we'll find out. This is a cool shot. We're kind of getting to the point where it's getting a little hard to handhold. My shutter speed's getting down to like 1/50th, 1/30th. So I'm gonna need to wrap up this film real fast. After vintage cars and old motels, I'm pretty sure any alien or UFO photo makes a New Mexico bingo. So as it turns out, it gets pretty quiet here after the sun goes down and not much is lit up. There's a few shop windows with some lights on, but other than that, it's not much is happening. So I might get 1 or 2 shots, but luckily I've only got a couple more to finish off the roll, and then we're done. Let's see here. I've always loved the way film reacts to cheap fluorescent lighting, and the color contrast draws the eye nicely. And honestly, I don't hate the halation effect here. I didn't anticipate shooting into the night, so I didn't bring a tripod, but I needed to finish the roll and I'm not afraid to improvise. I hope this person doesn't mind me borrowing his car for a stand. It's not even a good shot. Let's come back here. All right, this might work. Whew. Maybe that'll come out kind of sharp. Slow shutter. 1/8 of a second on that one. For my last shot, I wanted to get this painting of Frida Kahlo in the decorated shop window, but it really seemed like it was too dark. Quarter shutter. Quarter of a second. That'll never work. Unless I can lean back on this car without the alarm going off. Wish me luck. When shooting in low light, without support, anything you can use to stabilize your body helps a lot. I probably missed focus a bit, but it still came out better than I expected. All right, well, that's the roll. So maybe those last few will come out. My shutter was really slow on those, and I'm kind of pushing the lens and the camera to the limit, but we'll see how they come out. I really enjoyed the subtly muted colors that came out of the Cinestill 50D. It seems to deliver slightly pastel colors that are a nice departure from the more electric saturation of something like Ektar. It's a great film for daylight shooting, especially in full sun. It's got great dynamic range and a really nice contrast to it. And it's also a very easy film to work with in post after scanning if you want to create a more tailored look to your images. And while I've never been a big fan of the halation effect that's so common with the Cinestill films, I didn't find it to be very distracting here, and the few times that it did show up, I thought it added a very distinct and interesting look to the subjects of the photograph. Also, the low grain and high resolution of this film make it a really good choice if you want to get high quality images in 35mm format. I was also really impressed with the Yashica FX-1 and the 55mm 1.2, which allowed me to shoot handheld all day and into the night and get pretty decently sharp photos at f1.2 at a quarter shutter using 50 ASA film. So that's pretty impressive to me. One thing I wasn't too happy about was that the bokeh gets a little messy with close-up subjects, but that's not uncommon with lenses this fast, especially vintage lenses. There is also undoubtedly some sharpness loss when you're shooting wide open at 1.2, but again, that's usually a trade-off with shooting with a lens this fast, and it does open up a lot of possibilities to shoot quickly in low light with a low-speed film if needed. I think sunset and dusk shots are a great time to use this type of lens and film combo, especially if you want to maximize your capabilities during golden or blue hour. As always, thanks so much for watching. If you like the videos that I'm making, I would love it if you could like, subscribe, leave a comment. I appreciate you coming along on my journeys, and I'll see you in the next one.